In this video, I want to give you a minimal but complete introduction to the Dynamic Window Manager, also known as DWM by the Suckless group. I will go over how to compile it, how to use it, how to customize it, and how to patch it. And also, for example, I will show you smaller things like customizing the status bar and how to run your build of DWM without switching to it from your current window manager or desktop environment you're running. So you can try it out and see if it fits you, and also customize it more easily and stuff like that. Alright, so let's just start. How do you get DWM? It's pretty straightforward. You simply git clone it. And you git clone the following URL, git.suckless.org/DWM. And this will clone it into DWM. We can now cd into it, and if we ls, we see the following files. Alright, so to make it, you probably, if you have never compiled a window manager that's written in C on your machine, you probably have to install a few packages. And I have compiled a list here. So, alright, so we got the code and the packages. So I've listed the packages I needed to install on Alpine Linux. These may differ for whatever for whatever distribution you're using. So you need git. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward because we git clone. You need make, so we can call make in a second. We need gcc, so we can compile C code. And then we need these libraries. So libx11, libxft, and libxinitrc. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. So, and if you don't find these automatically in your distribution or in your package manager, you can probably just search online or use the search functionality of your package manager and so on and so forth. And I also installed xorg server Xephier, because this will allow us to run DWM without switching our whatever we're currently running. So whatever window manager or desktop environment you're running. And I'll show you in a second. Alright, so if we have that, all that's left to do is run make and do is make install. And I will only run make here because I have DWM installed already. But yeah. Alright, so if we run make, it will compile it and it will give us this nice DWM binary right here. And again, to run this now, it's pretty simple. We just use the following. We use this Xephier program and we call it with these flags here. So this is for a black background. This is so you can launch programs in it. This is for some other thing I forgot. And this is for the screen size here. And this tells us, or this specifies which display this should use. And if we just run that, it will open a black window, which is a bit cryptic. But if we now, let me open another terminal. And if we now, in this terminal, go into DWM again, and now run the DWM binary, but prefix it with display equals :1, it will run DWM, or it will run this version of DWM, because you can see I'm running DWM right now, and I have this yellow color and some other modifications. But it will run our new version of DWM, so the one we just cloned and ran made and compiled. It will run it in this nested X window. This is what Xephier does. So this is very, very nice and very, very handy for development. And I don't think I've seen that in like other guides to DWM, but this is, or window managers in general, but this is really like really comfortable. So, and in here we can now also switch workplaces and so on and so forth. And if you have colliding key bindings, that may happen because you have some key bound to some function in your normal environment, and in this nested X window where DWM is running, it doesn't recognize this function, of course. So for example, I can drag this window here by holding meta, but if I open so I can't open even a terminal here because that has a colliding key binding with my host DWM. So what you can do is hit Control and Shift at the same time, and it even says it up here, and this will lock the mouse and keyboard. So the mouse can't leave this window now, and all the key bindings are forwarded to this nested X server. So this DWM that's running in there. Pretty cool. So I want to show you now how to use DWM, and I've already kind of done that, because so to spawn a terminal in DWM, you need to press Meta or Alt Shift Enter, and this will open up. This will, I think, by default open up ST. So if you don't have that installed, you may need to change that in your config, which I'll show you in a second. But yeah, and you can also, so if I hit Shift and Control again and leave that, you can also, if I open up another terminal, you can also spawn other graphical applications from outside this nested X window by doing exactly the same thing again. So specifying display equals :1, and then just launching another program. So for example, I launch ST now, but you can launch whatever terminal emulator you're using, or yeah, whatever. And this will let you, again, start any graphical program you have. So it's just another X server, it's not another machine. Alright. And as you can see, so the reason DWM is called a dynamic window manager is because it automatically manages your windows. So it's dynamic in that sense. So the more windows I open, you can see the more are on this right side here. Because by default, DWM uses a master stack layout, I think it's called. So you have this master region over here, so one window, so this left one right here. By default, it's just one window. And all the other windows get stacked on the right. So this is kind of the stack region. And to change this, you have to hit Alt-I or Alt-D. So if I hit Alt-I, it will increment the amount of windows that are in the master region. And if I hit Alt or Meta D, so Meta is just, I think it's the kind of Emacsy term for Alt. But if I hit Alt D, it will decrease the amounts of windows in the master region. And yeah, you can kind of do it. You can even have 0 in the master region, so only have the stack, and so on and so forth. But yeah, so I think you get the point, hopefully. It kind of took me a while when I first started DWM for this to click. I think you just have to kind of try it out and see how it behaves. Alright, and to now switch a window to the master region, you can hit Alt Enter. So if I, for example, want to switch this terminal, so this is the terminal I spawned from outside, so over here, this is why it is in my home directory and not in this DWM directory, because I spawned it from inside, from outside here. So if you want to switch this one to the master, or if you want to make this a master window or the first master window, you hit Alt Enter and it will switch them. Alright, so this is pretty much the basis of window management in DWM, or at least for the default layout. So you can have other layouts. There are two other layouts that are in DWM by default. There's the monocycle layout, I think it is, which will simply stack all your windows on top of each other. And this is specified by this 7 right here. And if you now hit Alt-J or Alt-K, it will cycle through them. So we can, let's for example, call date here, and so on and so forth, so we can differentiate them. You see, I can cycle through them. Let's close some of them, I guess. So yeah, just cycling through them. Yeah, and the third layout is the free layout, so no layout at all, so there's no automatic window management happening now. If you hit Alt-F, you select this, and this is specified by these kind of anchor brackets thingies, and you can then drag around your windows without the other windows being aligned automatically, so they stay how they are. And the way you do that is by holding Alt and then dragging with your mouse, and if you with your left mouse cursor, and if you hit the right mouse cursor or press the right mouse cursor, it will resize them. So yeah, so this is about window management, and then you have these workspaces up here, so 1 through 9, and you can switch to them by hitting Alt and then the number. So if I hit Alt-2, it will switch to the second workspace. So yeah, and if you want to move windows to a certain workspace, you hit Alt-Shift and then the number. So if I want to move this window where I call date, or this terminal emulator where I call date, to the second workspace, I hit Alt-Shift-2, and it will move it there. And if I switch there, it is there now. So yeah, pretty straightforward. Alright, so that was the basic usage, how DWM operates. Now we want to change something. So for example, we want to change the color, we want to change maybe also the font size or something, we want to customize it. a bit. Or we maybe also want to change the key bindings. So what we can do is, let me enter that, and we can now, you can also now cancel this, and you can leave this open because it's just a X server running. Or we close it because it's running here. And you can also open this in the background so it doesn't occupy your window. All right, like that, for example. To customize DWM, you can edit the following file, config.dev.h. And normally, I think the idea is that you edit, because if you compile DWM, it will copy config.dev.h to config.h. And the idea is to have this as a kind of preset or kind of template where you can base off your own config off. But in my experience, this doesn't really work because the most patches that you see, and I will get to patches in a second, most patches that you see modify this config.dev.h. So I would recommend you to just modify config.dev.h as well, and always remove this config.h and just let the makefile copy config.dev.h to config.h. All right. But before I do that, I run make clean, and I will now create a new Git branch because it's good practice to make all your changes in a separate Git branch. And the reasoning is pretty simple. If there are changes upstream, so if there are a new version, for example, for DWM or some fix or something, these are all in the master branch. And if you modify your own version of DWM in the master branch as well, you will have merge conflicts and stuff like that. It will just be a bit more difficult to merge. So you create a new branch by calling git branch and then the name of your branch, for example, my DWM. And you can name this whatever you want. So the branch was created, and to now switch to this branch, we call git checkout. And then it will tell you switch to branch my DWM. If I now call git status, it will tell us that we are on branch DWM, my underscore DWM. All right, and it will also tell us that this config.h is here. And we can, if we always want to remove this, as I just mentioned, we can edit the makefile, go down to this clean, and then just remove it there as well. So like this. And if we now call make clean, it will remove config.h as well. And if we now call git status, well, it will tell us we modified the makefile, but there's no more config.h. All right, so again, to customize it, you go into this config.dev.h, and here what you will see is not some pseudo syntax to make it easy to customize it or to simply set values or an environmental file or something like that. Rather, what you see is C code, just normal C code. And this may seem daunting at first, but it's actually pretty straightforward, because in the end, you're just dealing with values that get set. And the syntax may be a bit weird at first, but you kind of get used to it. And if you know C, this should be all familiar anyways. All right, so here up, and everything is pretty verbose. So you get a pretty good idea of what everything does. I mean, border pixel, like what will this value do? I mean, there's even a comment for it. So it sets the border pixels of the window. So this, right, the width of this here yellow border right here. And then the font gets set, and then the colors get set. So the colors you can, again, easily customize by just simply changing this value right here. So I will adjust the colors from stock DWM, from this blue grayish to the ones I have here, so this yellow. So I have, I think, this for the, oh no, this is for the gray. So let me change that. And for the text, I will use this. So if I now write this and now call make again, and then after this has made, I will display :1 and DWM, and it will start DWM in this nested X session again. And as you see, there's now this yellow color I have here in my host as well. And maybe I should not have the same color, because that may be confusing. So let's just do it, I don't know, blue or something. So like this maybe, I don't know. Make clean and make, because if you only modify the config.dev.h, it will not see any changes, the make file that is. All right, so now you can't really read the text anymore. So let's just change that as well quickly by setting it to BB, for example. I don't know. So yeah, now you can read it again. So these are just some normal changes you can make. And if you want to change the key bindings, for example, you just have to scroll down a bit, and then right here you see all the key bindings. So you see, for example, this mod key. So this is the alt key by default, and you can change this up here. So again, by default, mod key is mod 1 mask, which stands for the alt key. But you can change this to, for example, the super key or the Windows key by changing this 1 to a 4. Yeah, this is not something that's intuitive, of course, but they have a great documentation page for this. So if you go to, I think I have it here, no. So if you go to customization, it will tell you all the things I'm telling you in the video, of course. But if you go down to tag mask, Windows key, it will tell you that if to use the Windows key, you need to use mod 4 mask. So yeah. And then to customize the key bindings, you can just go in here and kind of think about like which keys you want to set to what. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward, I would say, even without any knowledge in C. Alright, next I want to show you how you can set the, I need to start this again, how you can set the status bar, which I have not done in my in my setup right here, because I kind of just haven't bought it, but it's pretty straightforward. So how you set the status bar in DWM, you don't need any additional software or any special program, well, kind of a special program, and that is xsetroot. And this is, I don't know if this is installed by default or if you have to install some X11 utils package or something. If you don't have this program, just search for it online and you will quickly find an answer, because this is very common. So what you do is xsetroot-name and then whatever you want to have displayed up here. So we can say hello world, for example, and it will set this to hello world. And you can pretty quickly see how this is very useful. So we don't only need to set it to something trivial, but we can also set it to, for example, the output of a command. So we could set it to date, for example, and this will set it to date. And of course we can then kind of do a while thing out of this. So for example, like this, and this will refresh this status bar up here every 5 seconds and set it to the current date. So yeah, pretty straightforward. And you can, of course, you can put this then in your xinitrc and have this run in the background, or put it in a script and start the script if you in your xinitrc and so on and so forth. So this is pretty straightforward. And you can also, of course, display some other information right here. I don't know, whatever you can think of that you can output in a shell script, pretty much. So we could also have like hello world and then the state. Again, this is a trivial example, but I hope you get the point. Alright, so that's for status bar. And the last thing I want to show you is how to patch DWM, because modifications in like color and font and key bindings, that's nice and all, but DWM kind of, if you use it, you kind of may lack features. So I want to show you how to patch it. And there's actually a pretty good, like, how do you say, kind of community for patching. So there are a lot of patches. If you go to this patches link right here, it will take you to this kind of empty page, but up on the left, you see all the patches. And there are, like, at this point, there are so many patches. I was actually kind of, a few years ago, there weren't that many patches, but now you can just kind of have to dig through all of these patches to find what you want. And I've taken out 4 patches I kind of find very useful, which I want to apply and show you how I apply them. So the first is the per tag patch, because by default, if I go to this first window, by default DWM will apply the same tag to every the same layout to every tag. So if I, for example, have this, or if I let me spawn a window, or I have 3 windows, and I switch to, by hitting Alt M, to this kind of stack layout, and now to switch to the second workspace, it forces the same layout there as well. But if I now say, well, no, I want to have the the kind of normal tabbed layout by hitting Alt-T, it will, and go then back to the first layout, the first workspace, it will then also apply this layout here. So this is kind of very counterintuitive, because they want to maybe have different layout configurations for different workspaces, because you have different windows and applications running there. So this patch changes this, and again, if I switch back to that, this is not as simple as changing something in the config file, but you need to run, like, you need actual C code that does stuff. So, and the way you apply this is again by patches. And so there are these diff files right here, and we will select the first one because this is the newest one. And I will open it up in a new window. And if you look at this, this may seem cryptic at first, but it's actually pretty simple. It simply tells you, okay, so what lines do I need to remove from the files as they are right now, and what lines do you need to add? So a plus at the beginning of the line tells you, okay, you need to add this line, or tells the computer rather, and the minus tells you, okay, you need to remove this line. So let's just get this patch by, so first I will create a new folder called patches, and then I will wget this, and you can get it any other way you want, of course. So this is the same we just looked at in the browser. And if I now go back, I can now apply this patch by running git apply, and then the patch. So this will try to apply it, and it has. So if I now run git status, it will tell us that files were modified. So again, this makefile, I should I should probably just commit that. So if I add the makefile and then just commit changed makefile. Alright, so this isn't bothering us anymore. And if we now look at the git diff, for example, we can see all of the changes. So for example, here we see, and this is a diff file again, of course. So the minus tells us, okay, this line was removed. So remove this EEE color and this 005577 and replace them with these colors right here. And we can now also see the changes made to the C code in dwm.c, so in this file. And this is now because of the patch we applied. So yeah, I mean, you don't have to look through this if you, of course not. So we just commit it as is and then recompile it, because the git apply operation didn't throw any errors or anything, so everything went fine. So we can now git add the config dev.h with our changes to the color, for example, and we can make this kind of 2 commits, I guess. Change colors, and if we now add the dwm.c file, and we may also want to add this patch file just for completeness sake. At least I always do this. I don't think you have to do, I mean, you don't have to do anything anyways, but yeah, I think this is kind of good practice. So we can now also commit that, edit per tag patch, for example. So yeah, and again, if we now make this again, and maybe we should call make before, like, committing to make sure it works. Or no, we should call make clean and then make, I guess. And then I will open up DWM again in the, where is it? Here in this nested X session. And now if I, for example, let me put this on the second workspace. So this on the second workspace, this also on the second workspace. And now let me switch to the kind of stack layout here. And now if I switch here, you will see we have the normal master stack layout here and the like monocycle, or I don't remember what's called, right here. So we now have different layouts for different workspaces. And we can also kind of, and we can also, for example, if we open up these here, we can also, and I forgot to mention that in the kind of usage section, we can also change the ratio of the master stack, so the kind of width ratio, by hitting but Alt-H and Alt-L. So L will increase it and H will decrease it, or will move it to the left. And this also gets saved per tag, so per workspace. So if I go back to the second workspace, it is different here than it is here. And by default, it's all the same. So by default it doesn't differentiate. So if I didn't add this patch, we would also have the same ratio from master to stack in this workspace. I hope that's clear. So yeah, so this is a patch that I think is very handy, as I've mentioned. The next patch I want to apply, and you will see in a second why I apply different patches, because the more patches you apply and the more changes you make, the more likely you are to run into problems with patching. And I kind of want to show you such a problem and how to fix it. Alright, so the next patch I want to apply is move center, because, and I have not applied this as well in my normal DWM build. And like if I have, for example, this window right here, it's impossible to center it by hand, of course, because you can't count the pixels left and right. And this patch adds a key binding mod plus X, so Alt X in my case, or in the default case, to automatically center the focused floating window. Alright, so to get the patch, I simply copy link URL, and go back to this window, go to patches, wget that again, go back, and now git apply it again. Git apply patches DWM move center, and this applied fine as well. I kind of tried this out before on my own build, and some of these didn't work, so I may just try out the other ones and see if they work too. So let me get so the next one is actual full screen. By default, DWM doesn't provide the functionality to set a window in full screen. I think it works for applications or graphical applications that provide this functionality themselves. For example, Chromium, I think, provides it. If I hit F11, it will put it in full screen. But for example, you now can, as is, not put a terminal window in full screen. At least not the simple terminal ST, because it doesn't provide this functionality. Alright, so let's get this diff. Patches, wget. Oh, and I forgot to commit this. So git add, where were we, move center, and config dev.h and dwm.c. Git commit -m, add move center patch. And now we git apply this actual full screen patch. Alright, great. So now it didn't work. So as you see, patch failed, DWMC, line 211, patch does not apply. So if you run into this error, nothing to your files will change, so Git will just bail out and not change any of the files. And now you can try to do a three-way merge. And the way you do this is by specifying the -3 flag. And if you try this, it will now apply the patches cleanly. So it will tell you patch cleanly applied to these files. So sometimes this happens, again, if you add too many patches, Git can't automatically apply the patch because the lines that it's searching for are actually not there anymore. They may be somewhere else because you added something above or below and so on and so forth. So the more your code differs from the code the patch was applied to, the more you will run into problems. But of course you can also apply a patch by hand by just changing the files accordingly. So, but again, this was now applied cleanly. So if I now do git status, and it has already, I don't know when Git automatically stages these files and when it doesn't. I'm not quite sure on that. But it has already staged them, so we don't need to git add them anymore. We can just git commit -m edit, what was it, full screen patch. Oh, and we need to add the actual patch file that Git doesn't automatically do. So I will do this and this. Alright, so if I now hit make again, and wait, let me search for make, yeah, and then we want to kind of call this automatically. So let's do that. So when it's done compiling, it will automatically start it in this X session. And here we have it. So if we now hit Alt, I think it is Shift F, is it that? Yeah, it will put the selected window in full screen. So if we do that, it will put that in full screen, and so on and so forth. And it will also, let me move this to the second workspace, and let me put this into floating mode by just hitting Alt and then left or right mouse, it will put a single window into floating mode, even if you have not enabled floating mode for the workspace. I should have also mentioned that maybe. So you can have a normal master stack layout, but still have singular floating windows. And to center this now, you can simply hit Alt X and it will like perfectly center a window without you having to eyeball it. So yeah, this is really useful. I wish I would have added this sooner to my build of DWM. So this is, yeah, very useful. All right, I want to apply one last patch, and this will be a bit different from the other patches because the patches so far have been Git patches. So what this means is if I go into patches and look at the, for example, move center patch, they were created by calling diff, the diff program, with the -- git option. And this will create a git diff. For example, this will have the hashes of the commits up here. So this is for Git to understand. But sometimes it happens, and this is kind of also a kind of, yeah, annoyance, a little bit at least, is that diffs don't, or patches rather, are not created with Git, but with the normal, no, I don't want to make from it faster, with the normal kind of diff and patch commands. So for example, this right here, so if I zoom in here, you will see diff and then -up. So it's not -- git as in the other patches, but something else now. So to apply this patch, and these are the only really two options, so I want to cover that as well. So let's get this patch by going here, getting that, going back. And to apply this now, again, we can't do git apply because we can try just to kind of show you it doesn't work. So this is, oh, and I should have mentioned, this is for adjacent tags. So you don't have to like hit Alt and the number of the tag you want to go to or the workspace, but can rather hit Alt and right to go to the next workspace or Alt left to go to the previous, and so on and so forth. And you can of course bind these to more sensible keys than the arrow keys. All right, so if we try to apply this, we see, okay, it does not apply. If we try to do a three-way merge, it also doesn't apply because repository lacks the necessary blob to perform three-way merge. It just doesn't work. So if we do git status, nothing has changed except these files. Let's make clean. So nothing has changed. So how you apply a patch like that is by using the patch command. And specifically, you want to specify the p1 flag and then pipe that patch, so the patch file, into this command. So we need adjacent tag. And if I do that, it will give us a bunch of output. So first it's patching the def.h, and that already failed. Great. And I will show you in a second how to fix all this. And then it patches dwm.c, and there are a few hunks, so kind of sections where there's difference. And it succeeds in a lot of them, but in two of them it fails. So let's look at what happened. So we can go into the .h, I think. Oh no, it's not in here. It's in this, yeah, saving rejects to file config def.h.reg. So if we open this, we can see the thing that was not applied. So specifically these 4 lines. And I guess the reason they were not applied is because if we look at our version of this file, they were not applied because there's this line, or rather, no, yeah, this line right here in there. So for this move center patch we have applied, it added this line, and because of this we now can't easily apply this other patch. But I mean, we can still do it, of course, because we can simply copy these lines, go into this other file, and just paste it in here. So like that, remove all these plus signs, and be done. So pretty straightforward. Let's close that. And we also have to do the same for the dwm.c file. And here I think there are 4 lines in total. Let me pull up another terminal. Let me go there as well, because I'm not gonna like switch back and forth between these now. And C, and we need to go to, for example, we can look at, or we can just go to the line number, so 183, and go to, yeah, again, here is the move center, and this kind of throws the patch program off balance because it's looking for this move mouse line and it doesn't find it. Or it finds it, but it doesn't find as the next line this next tiled, but rather this move center, which it of course doesn't know about. So let's just paste it in here, and for this as well. And I mean, there are better programs to kind of patch files like these. I think Emacs has a pretty good integration for patching files, so you don't have to manually copy and paste lines. But it works like that, and for simple patches, this is fine. I mean, these are not big patches. So again, and for these two files as well, these two lines, I mean. So let's do that, and yeah, we are done. If we now call git status, we of course see these two modified files. We can remove these now. Yeah, it has also created a .orig file for the original .dev.h. But again, I mean, we are using version control anyway, so these are kind of like, this is kind of useless, I guess. Or we can let's just do this, and let's do dwm.c. whatever. Let's remove that as well. Let's add the patch file and dwm.c and config.dev.h and commit it. Again, I should probably run make before that. Yeah, let's actually do that. Let's run make, and it will open up, yeah, in a second. And the reason all these windows kind of pop up is because the X server is still running, and it has all these windows still open. And whenever you then spawn DWM, you will kind of DWM will kind of inherit all these windows and just put them into place where they belong. All right, and I mean, we can close some of them. So okay, what the last patch I applied does now is if you hit Alt and right arrow, it will switch to the next workspace. Alt and left will switch to the previous one. And if you hit Shift as well, it will switch, or it will rather move a window to the next or previous workspace. So yeah, pretty handy. So this is all I wanted to show you in this video. I think these are all the things you need to know to get started with DWM, with customizing it, with patching it, with using it, of course, and so on and so forth. So to actually use this now, all you need to do is run do as make install, and this will install it on your machine, and then you won't have to specify the local path to this binary, but your normal binary will just be what you customized here. So yeah, pretty straightforward. And then to call this, you just have to edit you have to call it from your xinitrc. So if I open that up, xinitrc, you can see, okay, so I set a path here for chicken scheme and whatnot, and I call a script to fix my keyboard layout, and then some program to set my xcompose key and whatnot. But then at the end here, and this needs to be at the end, I call exec DWM, and this will then, well, execute DWM as my window manager. So yeah, if you don't know about that, you can probably find it online, but you need to have this xinitrc file, and then you just call start x from your terminal to start the X session. And in this xinitrc file, you can then of course also call, and I mean, you can just call while true, for example, and then do x set root name date, well, like that maybe, and then maybe asleep, to just update your root thing, so your status bar, every 5 seconds to set the current date. So I mean, this is pretty simple way to just set your status bar to like show you information. And you can also, for example, do this with ACPI. I think is one program to, for example, show you the status of your battery, so how full your battery or how empty your battery is. Or you can also do this, I've also done this on another laptop, or an older configuration rather. I have done this with, for example, network status, where I just ping some server to see if I have internet or not, and show this there. And I mean, people have done lots of stuff with the DWM status bar. But yeah, so yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I hope I haven't missed anything, and I hope this will get you started with DWM. And yeah, have a nice day.